When I was in my 20s, just the thought of saving six figures seemed out of reach. I was too busy cleaning up my bad money mistakes from my college days. Some people have to crawl before they walk. Others can sprint to the finish line. Regardless, everyone has to take the first step forward. Whether saving six figures in your 20s sounds like a pipe dream or you've already moved into the next age bracket, you can still learn from someone who's been there. That's why I'm so excited to talk with Carly of Best Money Class Ever about how she managed to save six figures in her 20s and how she's continued those habits today. Let's dive in. Welcome to the City Girl Savings Podcast. I'm Rhea Reeves, founder and finance coach of City Girl Savings. I turned my life around with budgeting many years ago, and now I'm on a mission to help others do the same. I fully believe that you can enjoy your life on a budget, and this weekly show will focus on the intersection of money and the city girl lifestyle. Join me every week along with some special guests as I share my experiences, advice, and guidance on navigating life and money as an experience-loving millennial. Carly is the founder of the Best Money Class Ever. She graduated in 2008 with a degree in finance and, in the face of a looming recession, got some inspiration from a professor to start her own business in home security. Carly and I met at the Austin FinCon in 2021. She also lives in Austin, and we're both women in the finance space. We quickly took to each other. Now we meet up at content creator events or even do co-working sessions together. Carly is active across social media and shares so much great information about saving money. Carly, I'm so happy to have you here today. I think we should start with you just sharing a little bit about your story and what ultimately led you to start Best Money Class Ever.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. So I have always geeked out over personal finance, and I studied finance and I graduated into the recession. And so I had this finance degree and it's like, oh, great. Conveniently, the entire financial market completely crashed. So I wasn't able to get, all the banks were in crisis mode and everything. So I'm like, perfect timing. Amazing. But yeah, so I ended up not getting into finance right after college, but I did definitely feel this sense of total chaos and insecurity and fear and overwhelm when it came to just literally graduating right when everything just kind of exploded. And so that I used that kind of as a motivator to get my financial house in order. And so I owed about 35K plus on a car loan, which was crazy, but then, also student loan, and then essentially paid all of that off. And then, like you said, I ended up saving over $100,000 by age 26. And the thing that I was super proud of was I only earned around the average household income. So I was like, you know what? If I can do this, anyone can with just a little education and a solid plan. And I remember one day just kind of on impulse, just I love finance. I have this finance degree and I'm really good at it. I just geek out on all of this stuff, which I know most people absolutely hate. But I was like, this is something that I'm naturally inclined to do. And so I was pulling up to a Barnes and Noble, my office at the time, AKA they had free internet. And I saw this Fidelity. And I was just bright-eyed and naive. I was like, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to just be you know what? I'm Carly. I want to be a financial advisor. And literally started interviewing to be a financial advisor. And one of the companies asked me why do you want to be a financial advisor? And again, naive, I was just I want to help educate people manage money. And all these rejection letters just piled on in. And I didn't understand it. I was like, but I have this finance degree and I'm really good with money. But I found out the hard way, in the financial advisor space, they want you to primarily sell investments, sell insurance to high net worth people. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to help everyday people who were smart, maybe had a college degree, had careers, but they just didn't really learn about money. So with coffee in hand and my laptop, I took what I learned studying finance and then created Best Money Class Ever. It's a live and virtual 4-week personal finance class. So I teach how to pay off debt, how to invest, and manage money. So here I am.
I love that. And I think you make such a good point about financial advising. I mean, the focus is really on people who already have money, but they are not serving people who are just getting started or maybe are struggling with debt and they need to get to a place where they actually have money that can be managed. So I love that you just created your own space for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
So before Best Money Class Ever, you started a business in home security, right? I mean, what made you get into that industry? And if it was right after college, being so new to the real world, what was it like starting a business at that particular time?
Yeah. So the backstory is basically when I was in college, I always had this desire to earn my own income. And so I started doing this crazy summer sales internship selling home security systems. And it was like direct sales, as in like face to face, but it was pretty much door to door. And so it was one of those things where I learned about the position and I was like, you know what? It was 100% commission. So there was no guarantee, but there's like really no limit on how much you actually could make. So I wanted to use my college experience to actually learn. I thought that working and earning an income and learning a skill, especially like communicating with others. And so just so happened to be home security systems. Now that was basically 2007. And it was crazy. It had become an Inc. 500 company, meaning like one of the fastest 500 companies in the nation. This was not my company at all. But at the time, I slowly became like a top sales rep and I felt like totally on top of the world. Like the world is my oyster, right? But that was 2007. That company actually went bankrupt.
What?
Yeah. And so that was a huge learning moment of like, no matter how many accolades a business or a company has, you never really know what like the real deal is. And so a lot of people look at like looking rich and having all these awards and this or that, but you don't know what's really happening. So I had walked into my finance professor's office hours, kind of just like, there's this pending recession. I have this finance degree. I was really killing it with this home security sales position, but they went bankrupt. So she was like, well, hey, you did really good at that. Why don't you just go out there and start your own company doing that? And it never really dawned on me to start my own business. But then I kind of thought, well, there's not really a good reason why not. Only thing that was holding me back, I was like, well, who's going to do the installs? So at the start of the recession, I literally like rolled up my sleeves and trained myself how to install home security systems. So I had like Monotronics is a monitoring company. So I had a monitoring company that I contracted out with. I bought the panels, the sensors, the motion detectors. I bought all the inventory and kind of had like a one woman show where I would sell, then I would install it, and I would service the accounts. So yeah, that's kind of the story with that.
Wow. I am like amazed at your ability to just bootstrap. Like, I love that you got this idea that you hadn't even thought of from your professor. And instead of being like, oh, I can't start a business, I don't know what to do, like, you rolled up your sleeves and got it done, Carly. That's
Like
awesome.
literally rolled up my sleeves. Yeah. So I'm not naturally like a handy girl at all.
Oh, you sound very handy.
No. The funny story to like really explain to people like, no, I'm not handy. I remember talking through with my mom, like, okay, I'm getting all this stuff ready. I'm going to need wire. I'm going to need a drill. I'm going to need electrical tape. I'm going to need screwdrivers. I'm going to need like the flat kind and then the star kind. And my mom was like, oh dear. Oh dear. She's like, it's called a Phillips, Carly. It's a Phillips screwdriver. And I was like, it looks like a star to me.
I mean, I
So
understand exactly what type of screwdriver it is when you say star.
I know, like the other kind's like called a flat. So this makes sense that it would be the star. So,
Now,
yeah.
how did that business go for you? I mean, how long did you have it and when did you decide to
Yeah.
kind of move on?
Yeah. So I graduated December of 2008. And then it was about 5 or 6 months of researching and like, how can I do this? Then I officially started that summer. So I had it like 2009 all the way to 2016, 2017. So about 7, 8 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And if you don't mind me asking, like, why did you let it go? Like, were you ready to move on or what was your thought process?
Yeah. Well, kind of like that one day that I like randomly saw the Fidelity and just pulled in, like I really wanted to get into finance. So for a while, I actually kept my home security gig and then also did best money class ever. And then I kind of made the decision like, you know what? I want to really go in on best money class ever and reach more people, do my class more often. I got into a lot of speaking engagements at like universities and things like that.
Wow. So I'm curious, like, if there's someone in a similar situation, they're getting
Yeah.
ready to graduate college, they're moving into what currently is not a great economy. What advice would you give someone who is in a similar position?
Yeah. So I guess where I was at, where I was feeling anxiety and fear about this unknown, first off, talk to, like I found my finance professor, talk to people that you look up to. So this wasn't like a random professor that I just saw like at class. She was an investment banker and she had semi-retired from that and then went into being a lecturer professor. And we had gotten coffee a few times and just someone that I really trusted. And so I went to her. And I think that a lot of times when you go to your mentors, you want to have it all together like, oh, this is my next step. And kind of just having this mentality of like, you know what? I really don't know what to do. And being open to hear their advice or thoughts or opinions is one. The other thing, because I know a lot of people really are scared, like right now is a really horrible time with inflation, cost of living. People are like, how can I afford? You know, we're both in Austin. It's like, how can we afford all of this? And especially new grads are like, this is scary. So I would recommend also having a mindset of like, you know what, let me use this as an opportunity to really get my finances in order. So focus on making yourself recession proof. So whether or not you like, I was in finance, whether or not you're in finance, taking on this mentality, I always say this in class, become chief financial officer and manage your money like a boss. So whatever your day job is, even as a college student, engineer, artist, anything in between, really taking on this mentality of not letting money happen to you, but being proactive and taking back that control. So a few things specifically you can do is get rid of the debt. So if you lose your job and you have like hundreds of dollars going to a credit card or a car loan, it's really stressful. So using like, okay, I'm going to pay off my debt to have kind of smoother cash flow, build up your emergency fund, do what you can right now to prepare for the unknowns.
Yeah, I always say plan for the unplanned, right? I mean, it's
Totally.
inevitable. It's going to happen, but you can do things right here and now to put yourself in the best position possible when those things come, and they will come.
It's going to happen. Yes.
It happens to us all.
Yes.
Now, let's talk savings. I mean, I really want to get into how you managed to save six figures by 26. That's amazing. My 26-year-old self is just so envious of you. But can you break down the process for listeners? Like, how long did it take? What did you do to save? Where did you save? And What did life actually look like while you were saving?
Okay, totally. I will break this down as much as I can. But first off, I wanted to say if you are listening to this in your 30s or in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s, the number one thing that I can say is the best thing when it comes to investing is simply to start. So no matter what age you are, looking back and like, oh, if I were 20 something, I should have done that then or whatever. Just say, hey, the best time to start is now. And so I definitely don't want anyone to hear this and kind of be like, oh, well, I'm already past 26 or whatever. But with that said, I will be the first to tell you it was probably like, to be honest, like 13 to 15 years in the making. So, uh, which it's like, whoa, wait, you must have started when you're a child. And yes, I actually kind of did. So for some reason, I always had this, like I mentioned before, this mentality of like, I want to earn my own income and I want to basically have some financial security. I don't know why there's like, we need to go to therapy to like discuss as like why 11-year-old Carly was already thinking about this. I don't know, but I was. And so I just remember as soon as I was like able to like be a babysitter, I was like, sign me up. And I was taking babysitting gigs. And then I started reffing soccer games, getting like $20 for an hour, which is pretty good, like basically 20 years ago now. And then my senior year, I started waitressing. I waitressed one semester. And then it was that summer before I went to college. So I was 18. And before I went to college, I actually drove halfway across the country and started these sales internships. What I ended up doing is I kind of went ham hard as a mother over my summers in college, like really trying to bring in an income. And so I worked like double time overtime my summers in college. And then the 9 months that I didn't have to work or think about working. So kind of a few numbers I jotted down. So my first summer, I was 18-year-old Carly, essentially worked 80 hours a week. So a lot of times if you hear people like, oh, wow, how did she save that much? Well, I worked, like I really did work hard. So I worked like 80 hours a week. And then that summer before I went into college, I have it written down. I earned $5,693,
Wow.
which sounds like a lot for a college student. But if you break it down, it was like less than $6 an hour at the time.
Oh.
It was all commission. But yeah, so when I was in high school and before that, middle school babysitting, I kind of just saved. And then at that point, I started reading about investing a little bit as young as you possibly could and the miracle of compound interest. So then I started investing. And then crazily enough, so the next summer I did the same internship. I brought in $8,176. And then that summer, I actually got bit by a tick and got Lyme disease.
Oh my gosh.
Which was, yeah, that internship was in like upstate New York and got like this bullseye rash and had to take a semester off school and all of that. So again, that kind of reinforced like, oh, things happen that like you just said, like the plan for the unplanned. So I ended up taking a semester off school and that was like a whole thing. The following summer, I just did a lower key internship and made probably about 3,000, 4,000. And then the next summer is when it really clicked. So I ended up becoming a top sales rep that year. And so I worked my summer and then I even took a semester off. So it was about 5 months of working. And this is where like, I'm working. And then I ended up bringing in $63,000 as a junior in college from this internship.
Carly.
And so that,
Wow.
yeah. So there was that. And then the next summer, then it was kind of around 50 to 60 the next few years, but I consistently lived like well below that and saved quite a bit. So essentially, like I worked a lot at a younger age. and was able to kind of keep the college lifestyle, like living mostly like a college student. And that like catapulted the savings.
That's amazing. And I think a big takeaway is like hard work pays off, right? Like I know that you had started
Yeah.
investing early on and you did your research there, but I think had you not grinded it out, you wouldn't have even had that
Yeah.
type of money to invest. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, that was not an easy journey. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of hard work. It was like a lot of rejection. I mean, it's literally imagine if someone comes up to your home, knocks on the door, people were like slamming the door on my face and calling the cops on me and all kinds of things. So yeah, it was definitely a lot of persistence and a lot of like, I kind of say like those were the years that I learned how to become rejection proof. So
Yeah, I mean, I have so much respect just for you and how hard you work, but the fact that you can do that type of work, a lot of people can't. Like that rejection is terrifying, right? But the fact that you like persevered and even became like a top sales rep is incredibly admirable.
thank you. Thanks.
So I got to know, like, now that you're in your 30s, you're running best money class ever, knowing what you know now just about life and business and budgeting, is there anything you would have done differently back then when you were making and saving all of that money?
I think that I can definitely be my harshest critic and always kind of say like, I wish I was further off than I am now. So kind of enjoying the journey and the process. And as you're working your way through rejection and hardships and getting Lyme disease or just random stuff, just knowing, the journey's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it in the end.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe you wouldn't have done anything differently.
I mean, the thing that I would have done differently is more of a mentality of like not being hard on myself.
Got it.
I would have given myself more grace throughout the process.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, it does make sense. And if you think about it, it's like, yes, you probably could have been kinder to yourself, but also yourself back then maybe had to like really like grind and force yourself to like stay in it and like keep going and hustle. So it's like maybe you giving yourself grace would have had a different outcome.
Yeah, you never know. So hopefully though, for my story, people can really realize though, like taking out the working 80 hours a week kind of thing for most people, a lot of college graduates can earn 40, 50, $60,000 in a regular 35, 40-hour work week. And if you consistently live below that for 5 to 8+ years, you definitely can build a lot of savings without as much grind and doing it as young as I did.
Got a money question you want me to answer on the podcast? I'm starting a new segment on the show called City Girl Solutions, where I answer any questions you have for me. Money, business, life, you name it. Submit your questions at citygirlsavings.com/QA and get your question answered by me in a future episode. And did you know that we have so many free money resources on our blog, Instagram, and TikTok channels? Find us across the internet at City Girl Savings. Well, let's dive into that a little bit. I know for me, growing up, my parents always said, save your money. And looking back, it almost felt like I had to do one or the other, save or spend. Like I couldn't do both. And, if anyone knows my story, I clearly chose to spend. But now that I've been through everything I've been through, it doesn't have to be either or. You can do both. And I really want to know what you would say to someone who feels like if they aggressively save money, they can't enjoy their life too.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up because this is a huge, huge idea that people have. I know like on TikTok, there's that girl who's like, I'll make the money back, but I'm only scootering around in Paris once or whatever, my 20s. And crazy thing is for me, I obviously was born flight on the saving side, just like naturally in my DNA. I'm a natural saver. And I realized like not everyone is like that. And if you're not, that's totally fine. But I do hope that people can find some sort of balance and realize like, hey, if you are naturally inclined to spending and experiences and travel and all of that, to use that as a motivation to save. So like for me, I wasn't just saving just for retirement. I did save and work a lot to go on all the trips and travel and experiences. So, for example, if you hear my story and you're just like, oh my gosh, this sounds awful, saving and all that at a young age, here's the thing. So, when I was 16, for my babysitting money as a 16-year-old, just taking up babysitting gigs here and there, I was able to save up and go on a 2 or 3 week trip to Europe, to 6 different countries, literally babysitting money. So I know that a lot of people think like you're going to have to miss out. You're going to have to miss these experiences, stay at home and do nothing. And that is not the truth. So that started my journey to travel. So I went to, I think it was England, Italy, France, Switzerland, Greece, and Turkey. And then I have done multiple trips. I've been to up to date over 20 countries. I did have a debt-free trip. So I'm a fan of like working hard and playing hard. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to travel, but I also want to pay off debt, think of like a really amazing trip that you want to go on and have that be as like your reward. Like if I get rid of this credit card high interest debt, then I will treat myself to this trip. So when I paid off my debt, I went to Southeast Asia, 3 weeks. I did Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand and had an amazing time, like the elephant rides. I went to Tiger Kingdom and the beaches and all that. So if you are thinking it's either or black and white with money, that is not the case. Use your desire to travel, your desire to have experiences and all that as a motivator with money.
I mean, people can't see me over here, but my jaw dropped a couple of times. I mean, a trip to Europe from babysitting money. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
incredibly inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you make such a good point that a motivator to save can be your desire to spend, right? Like if you know you like to
Yeah.
spend and you like to enjoy nice things, that's even more reason why you should save so that you can enjoy all of those things, but not have it hinder your priorities or your responsibilities, like protect your mental peace as well.
Yeah. Cause I know a lot of people going on these trips and then coming home and then having like this pile of credit card debt and kind of associating like, oh, if I travel, then I'm just going to get more in debt. And that's not the truth. The truth is it's totally possible to pay for these things in full before you even set foot on a plane. And then talk about like really enjoying the experience when you come home and have all these memories and all these once in a lifetime experiences, but you're still financially secured and able to maintain your regular obligations and be debt free or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've talked about this on the show before. I experienced traveling with no money, lots of debt, and thought I was living my best life to come home and be scrambling for rent and stressed out. And now I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yeah.
I've done
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
then I've done the take a trip, save for it ahead of time, plan, budget for it, go enjoy yourself. Don't worry about money because everything is already covered. Come back home and things run business as usual. It's like a night and day experience.
Totally. Because you did your Italy trip recent, right? Or that
I
was a few months ago?
Yeah, for my birthday. And
Yeah.
it was, totally saved for and planned well in advance. And it allows you to be more present where you are and just really enjoy like everything around you instead of like stressing out or wondering if your credit card limit is being reached.
Yeah. So a shortcut mentality is anytime you're saving to ultimately spend it. So whether you're spending it this year for a trip or 65-year-old self is going to go on a trip when you're retired or cruising Alaska or whatever it is. Like anytime you're saving, essentially you're helping yourself live the life that you've envisioned. And it's
I
not just to like sit on a pile of cash just because.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way. And I think you explained it so well. I mean, you are saving to spend. So you shouldn't look at those things as two completely different ways of being, right? I mean, the ultimate
Yeah,
goal of your savings is to spend it when you reach your goal.
totally. Yeah. Whether, it's a house, you're saving up for a house, whether you're saving up for, say, you want to be a stay-at-home mom and that's your dream or whatever. And like you're getting your financial houses in order before you even met the guy or whatever, like there's ultimately, I think, tapping into what it is that you desire, like kind of your lifestyle, what you envision, and then kind of coming up with a plan like a boss, like the CFO to make that happen.
Yes, I love that. So I
Thanks.
want to shift gears just a little bit because one thing I think is so cool about you, Carly, is that you live the RV life.
Yes.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can literally pick up and go any and
Yeah.
everywhere. So I want to talk about this. Like, what made you get into the RV life and what do you love most about it?
Yeah. So I think that financial independence and financial security go hand in hand with the ultimate freedom, which is time freedom and freedom to travel and go wherever and do whatever experience that you want to do. So I think they do go hand in hand. So for me, I always had a desire, like you've seen from the 16-year-old Carly who saved up her babysitting money and went to Europe. I've always had this desire to see the world. And funny story, when I was a little girl in my backyard, I had a playhouse. It was something my dad like built, and it was just like plywood, had like a door and windows and all that, super small. And I don't know why, but I had this, again, probably need to go back to therapy, but I had like this as a child, was just like, wow, I wonder when I grow up if it would be possible to live like as a real grown up in like this really small space. Something about like being super efficient and super minimalism just was always so attractive to me. I don't know why. Again, really don't know why, but it was just in me. And so flash forward to like the 2000s when tiny houses and RV life really became an actual thing. I was like, sweet, society said this is totally 100% acceptable. I'm doing it. And I just really felt like if I never had this experience of living tiny, I would completely regret it. It was kind of just something that I needed to get out of my system and do. And it's been over 3 years and it's definitely been a fun adventure.
Wow. I mean, how was young Carly just so ahead of her time? Like she
I
knew this was
know.
coming.
I knew the tiny living was coming. Yes.
So, like with the RV life, I mean, you personally, I know you've been doing it for a few years. I mean, do you maybe plan road trips and take them? Like, do you
Yes.
really kind of get up and go whenever you want? Like, what does it look like for you?
Yes. So the funny thing is you might have like this dream of what you'd like your life to be like, and then part of it isn't exactly in line. So I have determined that being a full out digital nomad is not for me. I like having a home base. I found that relationships and friendships and community and like having a daily routine where I'm like, oh, this is my HEB, like my grocery store is important. I actually did like this whole 6 month sabbatical thing and I spent a month in Hawaii. This was right before I bought the RV. I sold everything that I had. And when I say everything, I mean, I had a garage sale and even like sold like half used nail polish, like everything, sold everything, went to Hawaii and then came back to the States, then got the RV. And so I did a few months in the Carolinas. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I think as humans, we're not designed to live in isolation, or at least me. I know you can meet people on the road and all that, but I kind of wanted to have the home base. So then I came back to Austin, and there are surprisingly, a lot of RV parks and tiny house communities in Austin. So I tried a couple different ones and then loved having my girlfriends and community around, and then was kind of itching to go travel again. So then I did a solo trip up to Grand Canyon, Sedona. Then I did the California, like some beaches and Portland, Seattle, Grand Tetons, and Boise, and then back down. So this past year, I haven't done too much travel, but that will hopefully change. Hopefully, I want to do another trip this year. So FinCon is actually going to be in New Orleans. I'm thinking about taking my RV and having an RV party with our fellow FinCon creators and making a trip out of that. So,
Oh my gosh. I hope the invite extends to me. That would be
yes,
so
RV
cool.
party.
I just love the thought of getting up and going. And I feel like there's so much to see in the United States. And I love that you've kind of made this your reality, but also having that kind of place to call home as well.
Yeah.
So cool. So cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, if someone was interested in living the RV life or getting started with it, what first steps should they take?
Well, I think that a good step is to take a look at your finances. So, a lot of people hate budgets. It's like nail on chalkboards, but kind of Taylor Swift style. I'm like, haters gonna hate, hate, hate. I want you to shake it off, stop with the hate with the budgets, and think of this RV desire project. Basically, the budget puts a dollar sign to your to-do list. Any items on your bucket list, like if you want to transition into RV life, have a budget to make this dream a reality. So they say there's like this quote, it's like a goal without a plan is just a wish or dream. So a goal without a budget is just a wish. So like you can do RV life like super frugal, or there's RVs that cost like $200,000. And so getting your finances in order, taking a look at how to make this dream a reality. So starting with the finances. And then obviously there's like the logistics of downsizing. But the cool thing about that is in my class, I always teach people to pay off debt. You can jumpstart your journey by selling things and getting the cash. So, maybe use that as a little test of selling some of your items. And also that would help with your savings to finance the purchase.
Is there a certain set or a certain amount, I should say, of money that somebody should maybe strive for before diving in, or, at minimum, just making sure the RV is covered?
Yeah. So a lot of times there's kind of more to it maybe than you would think in terms of like if someone's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to do RV life. It's like, okay, well, you'll need an SUV or truck to pull it. And there's like just a few other things to think through. So for me, I'm a cash girl. And so I ended up saving up and I bought an SUV with cash. It was like $14,000. And then I bought my travel trailer. And again, RVs can go up to like $200,000 or whatever or more. But I always say like, I bought my home with cash, but my home's like a 20-foot travel trailer. And it was about 15-ish thousand dollars or something. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people aren't cash people and they're like, I'll have payments, but then that's when it can get expensive if you're having like this massive truck payment and like RV payment. Like if you're doing it to save money, you're probably not. It can add up. So I found, especially when I did my Pacific Northwest trip, the gas money was so expensive. Once I was like hitting up California, I was like, oh my gosh, every time I filled up the tank, it was just like a mini gas, like total utter shock of like how expensive it is up there.
And nothing like being caught off guard financially.
Yes, like, gas.
Okay, so shifting gears again, I want to spend some time talking about best money class ever. I know this is your current baby and you've been doing it for a while. So
yes.
You've talked a little bit about it, but can you break down a little bit more, like what exactly it is, how it helps people, and how people can take advantage of best money class ever?
Yeah. Okay. For sure. So Best Money Class Ever is definitely my baby. It is a live and virtual 4-week personal finance class. So I know a lot of classes out there just touch on like index funds, or they just touch on budgeting, or just a class on how to buy a house. But I wanted to kind of cover like personal finance across the spectrum. Because if you're wanting to invest, most people are like, well, hey, but I still have this amount of debt. What should I do about that? And then if you're also just talking about debt, it's like, well, what about budgeting to save up for travel and the fun things too, right? So the setup, managing money is hard. It is not easy. So the class is designed in a way where it will challenge you. So each week there's actually a lesson with a challenge. So the first challenge is to become chief financial officer and manage your money like a boss. So a lot of people are like, well, what budget should I use, or apps or tools? And I'm like, I freaking love financial statements. So if you're wondering like, where do I stand with money, or where does my money go every single month? Financial statements are my favorite tool. It's like what the Fortune 500, like billion-dollar companies use. So we dive into that. And so that week, you'll actually learn a lot. And then you're challenged to fill in your own financial statements. So it's super interactive. The next week, the challenge is to get out of debt and stop emotional impulsive spending. So I know that's like a huge thing, is swiping a card, adding items to the card, and getting all these things from Amazon, and then feeling shame and remorse and all that. So we really dive into that. My specialty is really helping people pay off debt. So I had one couple, they owed about $61,000. They paid it off in 20 months. So I'm really big on helping people turn things around. The third week is learning how to live within your means. So we touch base over what you asked about, the like, how can you save money but still have a really good social life, and living below your means, but still going out and doing the things that you want to do, hanging out with friends and happy hours and all of that. So I talk about how to balance that. And then I dive into, I think when it comes to living within your means, people just really got to get two things right: your housing and your car. So if you can live below your means with your housing and your car, everything else falls into place. So that's when I talk about home buying and mortgages and car buying and all that. And then the last week, the challenge is to start investing confidently. So that's when I dive into, a lot of people like, oh, I'm contributing to my 401k plan, but you don't really know what you're actually investing in. So we'll dive into how investing works, all the things. So yes, best money class ever.
Yeah, I mean, that really is the full spectrum, right? I mean, you kind of start at the bare basic level, and then you kind of move up
Yeah.
to now it's time to build wealth. I'm curious, is it every day for 4 weeks? Is it like once a week? How does that work?
Yeah. So each week there is a live lesson. It's 2 hours. And so you'll learn, and there's group Q&A. Definitely. I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to learn something, I like to talk to like a human and be able to like interact and stuff. So it's 2 hours live, and then 2 hours live once a week. And then that week you'll have your challenge to fill in your spreadsheets and your balance sheet and your cash flow and income statement and all that. And then we'll come back, and then we'll have the next challenge.
And how many times a year do you do best money class ever?
So right now I'm actually doing it quarterly. And so once a quarter, so January class is in session now, and then it'll start up again this spring.
Awesome. I will happily link to it in the show notes. I think everyone needs to learn personal finance, and this is a great resource to do so.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm curious, as we get to wrap up, what is next for Carly for Best Money Class Ever? I know you're probably heading to New Orleans in the RV, but
Yes.
anything else on the horizon for you?
Yeah. So when I first created the class, surprisingly, I actually got into a lot of speaking engagements, and I really did. Like, I've spoken at about 65 like universities and companies and all that. So this next year or so, I'm really focusing on just the class, which is what I love, the class. And I'm also a little late to the social media game, but I'm such an in-person person. I like doing class with people who I can see and talk to and all that. So I'm transitioning to doing, like I said, everything virtually, but I'm really wanting to grow and build my audience and connect with people who are looking to pay off debt, looking to invest, looking to manage their money. So I'm doing a lot of content on TikTok and Instagram. That's where I'm focusing. So having my class, and then between class, having like little tidbits of like financial tips and all that people can check out.
Awesome. So TikTok, Instagram, I will definitely link to both of those in the show notes so that listeners can connect with you. I follow you on both and I love seeing your
Yeah.
videos. You have so much great content around saving money and being resourceful. So I know
Thank
my
you.
listeners would love that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Of course, before we wrap, is there anything you want listeners to just keep in mind when it comes to saving money, regardless of what age they are?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would definitely say money is really tied into mental health. And so I know if you're stressed about money, you're probably feeling a general sense of stress, overwhelm, anxiety. Sometimes people tell me really dark things about their financial state and just feeling overwhelmed and almost like hopeless. And it really impacts their overall wellness. And so I want to say, wherever you are, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, if you're drowning in debt, maybe you're not in debt, maybe you're making a great income, but you find yourself like emotional spending and just your spending's out of control, whatever it is, if you aren't where you want to be, you can definitely turn things around. So I know that it's not going to be easy. It's definitely a journey, but you definitely can do it. The one thing that I have found for people is it's hard to know where to start. Because there's like, should I pay off, highest interest debt or smallest debt? Or should I forget about the debt and focus on my emergency fund? Or real estate's so expensive. Should I get in now before interest rates get even higher? There's like so much. So if anyone out there is looking for resources, I did create a guide and it's literally called Start a Plan to Pay Off Debt and Invest. So I think there's so much power in just starting. And so that is one resource where it's literally like your step 1, 2, 3, and 4 with money, kind of just like a simple roadmap. But yeah, definitely know that the mistakes that you made in your college or early 20s or even 30s don't have to carry with you for the rest of your life. So it is totally possible to have a transformation and change.
I echo everything you said. And I think just moving forward in the direction of where you want to be is such an important thing to just keep in mind, right? Like it's so easy to just stay stagnant because you don't know what to do next, but find resources like Carly, like City Girl Savings, and use what's available to you to take even a tiny step forward. It makes all the difference.
Yes, totally.
Carly, thank you so much for being here, for inspiring us all, and for showing us that hard work really does pay off. It was such a pleasure having you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it too.
Thank you so much for tuning into City Girl Savings today. I hope you feel empowered and inspired to master your money as you make your way to your dream life. Make sure you subscribe so you're the first to know when a new episode comes out. I truly value your thoughts and feedback, so please leave a review and let me know how this podcast has impacted you. Can't wait to chat soon and make it a great day.